Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said they, quote, will not be doing business with states that practice genocide. I thought, really, that he means he'll stop doing business with himself because Spain committed an act of genocide against the Jewish people in 1492 when 300,000 Jews living in Spain, poof, were disappeared within a very short amount of time. One day, yes, Jews in Spain, the next day, gone. That is what we call genocide, ethnic cleansing. That is what Spain did to my people. 1492. Yes, that's what they did to our people. They told Jewish people in Spain, you can either convert to Catholicism or you can leave the country. That's before 1492. Or you can be executed. Now, many Jews left. They left Spain. Hence, we call them to this day, they are called Sephardic Jews. But many Jews stayed. And you know what he did to the Jews who stayed? Not him specifically, but his ancestors. What they did is they had the Spanish Inquisition, a religious fanatic police that would go into the basements, the homes, the windows of Jewish families who converted to Christianity, and they spied on them to make sure that, heaven forbid, they're not keeping any element of the Jewish faith. So horrible was the Spanish persecution of the Jewish people that they sent this Spanish Inquisition police to the newly discovered Americas. They sent them to South America. They sent them to North America. In fact, they even wanted to persecute the Jews who landed in parts of North America that are called the United States today. So, Mr. Sanchez, are you going to be boycotting Spain, a country that practiced genocide? No, he isn't. But you know who he isn't else? Who else he isn't boycotting? A double genociding country, Turkey. Turkey committed a horrific genocide against the Armenian people. Turkey committed a horrible genocide against the Armenian people in the early 1900s. Systemic extinction, horrible stuff. Google it. I'm not going to share it here because it's too terrifying. And this is Turkey. This is Turkey, and this is who Mr. Sanchez says he will be doing business with. Okay, so far, business with genocide he's doing with Spain, with himself. Business with genocide he's doing with Turkey. What other business with genocide is he doing? Well, guess what Turkey is doing currently to its Kurdish minority? Genocide. Absolute genocide, attack after attack for decades against Turkey's Kurdish minority. By the way, there are 30 million Kurdish people. They deserve a state of their own. They're between Turkey and Syria and Iraq. They're always persecuted. And Turkey is one of the lead destroyers of Kurdish people. Of course, we are terrified to remember what ISIS did to the Kurdish people. Good people, the Kurdish people are. And unfortunately, they've been persecuted by so many. And Turkey is part of this problem. So Turkey has committed genocide against the Armenians, against the Kurds, and of course, Spain does business with them. But guess what? Who is he boycotting? He's boycotting Israel. Why? Because he wants another genocide. Because he wants to finish what his grandparents started in 1492. He started a mission. In fact, believe it or not, most Jews living in Israel today are of Sephardic descent. They are descendants of the same Jews that were expelled from Spain in 1492. And so Mr. Sanchez, instead of getting on for and apologizing to these Jews of Spanish descent, he says, you know what I'm going to do? I will choke you economically. You know why? Because he is a direct continuation of the Spanish Inquisition, the same Spanish Inquisition that went to all these countries in South America and North America and tried to hunt down Spanish Jews to complete the genocide. He wants to do that now to the people living in Israel. And he's doing it in broad daylight. And people who call themselves progressives are now cheering this kind of behavior on. So my message to Mr. Genocide Sanchez of Spain is very simple. You didn't succeed in 1492. You're not going to succeed now. You're not doing business with Israel now. Shame on you. and we should be boycotting you because you are Mr. Genocide supporting Turkey's double genocide, and that's something that everyone should be joining. But if you have a shred of decency, I hope you internalize this message and understand that boycotting the same descendants of the Jews that Spain committed genocide against, I hope you take the message of repentance, thinking about what you've done, and making sure that not only do you not boycott Israel, but you make a proper apology and reparations to the Jews living in Israel. Now, why do I say reparations? Because I traveled to Spain and I saw in Madrid the Jewish Quarter. The Jewish Quarter, beautiful houses in the Jewish Quarter, but the Jews were expelled from there in 1492, and they still have the marks of the mezuzah on the door. It's still very clear it's the Jewish Quarter. So my recommendation is to Mr. Sanchez to get off his occupied land of the Jewish Quarter and the many, many Jewish homes that were stolen in Spain, to make reparations to the descendants of those Jews who are now living in Israel, and definitely not to badmouth Israel with fictitious, unbased, bogus claims as if Israel is the one committing genocide, when in fact that's him who's doing it.